Hello and welcome, my name is Connor from Luxia Smart Homes, and today we're going to be looking at how you can override your motion sensors with your light switch using the context variable. Just a quick one from future Connor here, after the video has been recorded. Just wanted to let you know that we've now made a Luxia Smart Homes community Discord server, which is linked in the description below. If you want to join that, say hello to me, Tez, and the rest of the Luxia team. Come along, say hi, we don't bite, we're quite friendly. If you want some advice, a little bit of a chat, whatever, be amongst like-minded smart home enthusiasts, join it in the description below. But I'll let you get back to the video. Bye. So let's say you've still got a normal PIR sensor in your kitchen and you're going to wash up and you know you're going to be there for a while, you're going to be standing at the sink, not doing much movement. Standard PIR sensor isn't going to pick you up, and so you want to override the sensor, but you want to do that in a quick and easy way that doesn't involve having to shout voice commands or get your mobile out. So we're going to set up a little automation which will run whenever we manually turn the light on and off. So if we manually turn the light on at the switch, it will override the motion sensor, and when we turn the light back off again at the switch, it will allow the motion sensor to work again like it normally would. It just allows you to enter a room and quickly and easily override the sensor without having to pull out your mobile or shout voice commands into a different room. Now, to achieve this, we're going to be making use of the context attribute. So if we have a little look here, I've just listened to the state changed event, and you can see there is a little attribute down here called context, and this has an ID, a parent ID, and a user ID. Now, what we're interested in here is the parent ID, because this parent ID will be populated with a string of letters and numbers whenever it's been interacted with by an automation. But when it's just turned on in another way, like at a switch, it will be populated with null. So this is how we're going to be able to detect when an automation has turned the light on and off, or when we have used a switch. So here we are in the automation, and as you can see, it's nothing too complicated. We've just got two triggers, which is master bathroom lights turned on and master bathroom lights turned off. There are no conditions in here because we're using a choose action, because I do like a choose action. And we've got two options. When triggered by light on, there are some conditions and an action in here. And then when triggered by light off, we've got some conditions and an action. So let's begin by looking at our two triggers. Now we have master bathroom lights turned on, and we've got master bathroom lights turned off. Okay, so these are just device triggers. Now what's important is both of these triggers have a trigger ID, which you can enable by coming up here and selecting Edit ID. Now the ID is important because it allows us to distinguish which action we choose later on. So the master bathroom lights turned on has a trigger ID of light on, and then the master bathroom lights turned off has a trigger ID of light off. So that's it, that's all we need to get started. Now moving down, we've got no conditions in place because everything's taking place down here in our actions. And again, this is a choose action with two different options. Now option 1 contains 3 different conditions. Now our first condition is a when triggered by light on. So this is a trigger ID condition. So let's just show you that. If we were to add a condition and just look for triggered by. So now we can select the light on trigger. So option 1 will only run if it is triggered by the master bathroom light turning on. Now our next condition is a value template, and this value template is looking at that context parent ID attribute. And we're basically saying if the parent ID is equal to none, so it has to be none, then we can pass on to the next condition. And the next condition is checking the user ID, which again is in that context attribute. And again, that needs to be equal to none. So what we're saying here is if the light hasn't been turned on by an automation and it hasn't been turned on directly by a user, then we want to run our action. And our action is to turn off our master bathroom motion automation. So we are directly interacting with the automation here, and we're just outright disabling it. So in this case, if we've already walked into the bathroom and then we've thought, oh, actually, I don't want to use the motion automation, I want to override that, you can just go at the light switch, turn the lights off, turn them back on again, and it will override the motion automation because it will disable it. So even though it was already running, it doesn't matter because it will disable the automation and cancel anything that was already happening. Option number 2 is a little bit simpler. We've got, again, a triggered by condition, except this time we are checking when it was triggered by the light being turned off. And we are then confirming that the master bathroom motion automation is off. So this is a state condition, and we're just checking the state of our master bathroom motion automation, because the light is going to get turned off when the sensor is running, when that automation is normally running. So we don't want this action to be running when that light's just, doing what it normally does with the automation, or if a user is interacting with it or anything like that. So we want to make sure that the automation has already been disabled, so the override is already in effect. If that's true, then we want to turn the automation back on. So a much simpler process here. When the light is turned off, it will then confirm that the motion automation is actually disabled, which means the override is in effect. If the override is still on, then we will turn the master bathroom motion automation back on. And that's it. That's our override, and it works pretty flawlessly. I've had no issues with it so far. Everything has worked exactly how it should. First time, every time. And one last thing, just before I forget, come up into the kind of automation settings and change mode and set this to queued. Okay, it's very important that this is set up as a queue. Okay, if it's not, then you might run into some issues. Now, what this allows the automation to do is basically stack up. Okay, so if somebody comes over and flicks the light switch multiple times, those automations will kind of stack up and they will just run one after the other. So it will allow the automations to catch up to whatever state the light switch is in. Now, I've set my queue length to 10, so if I flick the light switch on and off really quickly 10 times, the queue would stop building up, and then I would probably run into issues. But if anybody is spamming my light switches more than 10 times, well, that's just a weird thing to do anyway. So if you want to increase the queue length, you can, but just make sure it is set to queued, and the default value should be 10 anyway. So once you've done that, just hit change mode and you should be good to go. So there we have it, a really quick and simple automation today, which hopefully you found useful and are now going to deploy in your own home. I know it's a bit of manual intervention because you have to hit a light switch in order to get it to do what you want, but sometimes that's just the way it is. That form of manual intervention is much more acceptable to me than having to get your mobile phone out to then open the app, to then find the automation, to then turn it off. It's still the process of kind of turning it on and off is just simplified by just hitting a switch, and it's a much more natural type of manual intervention than having to find a mobile phone or having to scream a voice command halfway across the house in order to turn the sensor off. Now, another way that you could approach this is by using an input boolean, and you could use that input boolean as a reference within your existing motion automation. So instead of directly turning the automation on and off, you could use an input boolean within the motion automation and then reference that, and that would basically be the override. So you could say if motion is detected and the motion override is true, then don't continue with the automation. I prefer doing it this way because it means I'm not creating separate input booleans. I only like to create those helpers if I really have to. Otherwise, I just feel like things start to get a bit cluttered and you end up with loads of different helpers and loads of things being referenced all over the place. As long as your logic is solid and it does exactly what you want it to do and it does exactly what you're expecting every time, then I don't see a problem with turning the automation on and off. The only way that there would be a problem with that is if there was a flaw within the logic of the automation. That meant the automation couldn't be turned back on. So you would end up in a state where you're basically locked out of the automation and you would have to then go into the app and manually re-enable it. But because we're controlling one automation with another automation, you're not going to end up in that position. So if you want to use an input boolean instead and use that as a reference within the existing motion automation, you can, but I find this way much easier, much quicker, and you're not cluttering up your Home Assistant instance with loads of random helpers. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of our latest content. I'm also going to leave a link to a Discord server in the description if you would like to join that. That is the Luxia Smart Homes community, and it's just a little community of like-minded people, smart home enthusiasts, people who are interested in technology, where we can all just get together, have a bit of a chat. You can talk to me, you can talk to Tez, you can talk to other members of the Luxia Smart Homes team, and you can get advice directly from one of us through that Discord, and it'll be the quickest and most effective way to get in contact with any of our team. So if you want to join that and be a part of the community, the link is in the description. But until next time, I will see you later.